talk. He's a lawyer, he could live stream. He's the first man to prove that water run upstream. This is why I like Mr. Clark. Yes, you know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go to the pen.
He'll see that I don't go to the pen. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, fishy friends? Can't forget my tagline. We're going to jump right into this and bring in Chris Tweedy of Topwater Kayak Fishing. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. It's I'm actually kind of giddy. Today was officially the first day that one of the kayak folks got a bull red, so it's on.
Nice. Yeah, we got some pictures that we can share. Were those pictures you sent me of the bull reds? Were those like today fresh?
No. So we're really just beginning this part of the season. So this is great for anybody who's ever thinking about coming down to see me. Like the next month is the time.
Let's talk about that right now. Like,
okay,
if you're going to go fish with Chris Tweedy down in South Carolina, what are we going to get, and when should they do it?
All right. So I run Hobie Kayak Fishing Charter. It's more or less a boutique type charter. So it's two folks, usually, ideally. My customer is going to typically be anything from an experienced angler to somebody new to saltwater to somebody visiting the area that just wants to like be shown where the fish are. So full service kayak charter. I provide the baits, Hobie kayaks for everybody. Take us out, fish according to your schedule abilities, basically cater everything to what you need to do. So I run out of Charleston County, so up and down the northern part of Charleston County. So like Isle of Palm, Sullivan's Island, Bulls Bay area. And right now for the next month, we're going to be catching like 40-inch plus redfish on the trips. So
that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's huge. So that's what the folks in the boats have been chasing, like out in the ocean and in the jetties and off the beaches and things like that. So we found some spots where we can get into them on the kayaks. It's not like
in skinny water too, right?
What's that?
In skinny water too, right?
Relatively speaking, yeah. I mean, we're in like tributaries and stuff like that in and around like Bulls Bay. So we're like basically in the closest marsh, like right off the ocean. So, or on Sullivan's Island, we're right inside of Charleston Harbor. So like there's everything runs in there. So big sharks, tarpon, bull reds, even like giant stingrays, manta rays, like huge stuff. So for the rest of the summer, pretty much we'll be moving away from, at least for saltwater, like the artificials, like we've been using these Realm of Fear baits and stuff like that. But for like right now, it's going to be like mullet and cut baits and things like that on the bottom, trying to pull these redfish like that are hiding in like little nooks and crannies and stuff like that near the ocean.
Well, we already kind of did the 2-minute bite because we talked a lot about redfish, but I know there's something else that you're catching right now. But before we do that, you have a sponsor that sponsors this show. Do you want to talk about the Realm of Fear?
Right. So the Realm of Fear has once again given us a prize pack. You're going to win a shirt like this, a pack of plastics that they make, and I'm hoping to talk them into throwing in some jig heads, which they've just started producing, to send to whoever it is that comes up with the best audience question tonight. So I saw somebody flash up there. Hello from Georgetown, which is the next county north of me. So, hey, how's it going?
Man, 1969 is from Georgetown. No, that's not the university in D.C. It's
the
South Carolina.
Next county up north of Charleston. So
it's a really nice area down there too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's beautiful. But tell us about the Realm of Fear. Tell us, where they got started, where they're out of.
Sure, absolutely. It's my buddy Steve runs it out of the Charlotte area. They do a whole lot of custom baits for bass anglers. So I've been partnering with them since January to kind of utilize some of their stuff to show people that it really doesn't take anything fancy to get it done in saltwater. So they make some awesome curly tail grubs. I've been using their paddle tails, and actually I'm going to be taking a break from using their stuff for the next 2 months while we focus on this bait bite. But like once I get into like bowfin season, which will be July and August, I'll be right back to using like their TRD worms and things like that. So finesse baits, throwing stuff for bowfin like all summer. So,
well, guys, get your questions in because it looks like you're going to be getting a pretty cool prize pack of a really awesome T-shirt. Can you lift up the T-shirt one more time?
yeah, they have a pretty cool logo. I love it.
That's pretty sweet, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Some soft plastics and possibly some jig heads. So that's a nice little prize pack.
Yeah,
But
so
let's
check
do
them out, folks. They're on Facebook at Realm of Fear Custom Baits. Like that's the easiest way to get a hold of them. You can talk
the Realm of Fear Custom Baits. You said
the
it
Realm of Fear.
on Facebook.
Yep, just like that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's do the 2-minute bite. I guess it's dealer's choice. Do you want to do redfish or shark? But
Essentially,
fish is biting the most, the technique and what you're using.
We're basically going to use a similar setup for both. A lot of folks like were expecting when we go out that we're going to use like heavy steel leaders for sharks, and we're going to try to we're trying to fight like 10-foot sharks and stuff like that. Like there's a very good possibility that some of the sharks that bite our line are going to do that, but we're just using lighter tackle. So 2,500 to 4,500 size reels on something like a medium action rod. Like you use that flex of the rod to fight the fish. And honestly, if it's a bigger fish, it's going to break you off. So the big ones that you don't want to catch are going to blow you up. And otherwise manageable stuff like that's a 3-foot bonnethead. And you can fight them pretty easily because we're using circle hooks. So they're relatively hooked in the front of the mouth. So it's a simple bottom ring, like your Carolina ring will do, and with like a heavier test leader, like 40 plus pounds, with like a decent sized circle hook. Some folks will use just a straight J hook, but like I'd rather hook them in the mouth. So the only thing I got to worry is their body ration off the bite. And you just pick through the sharks and the stingrays, and sometimes the reds are there and sometimes they're not. So you're essentially fishing the same way for everything. So you let the fish dictate the battle. You kind of like launch and let the fish tow you around. You wear it out. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you're usually going to get your butt whooped either way.
And it's the funnest way you can possibly get your butt whooped is from a kayak with a big fish.
You're just sitting there watching because we're throwing into like holes, and then like all of a sudden your bait starts to move a little bit, and then bam, your rod just goes and your reel starts. Like the next thing you know, there's 100 yards of line off it. So you got to hurry up, pull your anchor, and go, and just like run at whatever way the fish is taking you, which is usually towards the ocean on the outgoing side.
Top water kayak charters are, what's their rig going to be looking like? What's the size of the reel, size of the rod? And how many of them do you blow up per season because a big shark tears it up?
So, I mean, yeah, because like if you take like a surf rod out in a kayak, like you can fight like a 10-foot shark, but like you're probably not going to win the battle because he ultimately can drag that boat around.
Right.
Like everybody saw that Facebook like viral video that's going around with the guy offshore that got like took a swipe at by like a tiger shark off of Hawaii. Did you see it?
Yeah.
So I'm not really trying to mess with sharks like that. I caught a small bull shark a couple years ago, and like it was like it looked like one of those like baby pit bulls. You know what I'm talking about? Where they're like full grown. But this thing was like a bull shark that was like 2.5 feet long, and it was shaped like a miniature bull shark. It was crazy.
Yeah. Darn it, man says Waya Bay Reds rules fattest in the land.
Yeah. So Winya Bay is like right north of the Santee River. So it's like a huge like confluence of a bunch of different rivers out of Georgetown that meet and then like form an inlet just north of the Santee. So yeah, there's a whole lot of fun stuff there. They'll get like nearshore king mackerel, they'll get tarpon, they'll get some bull reds there. So yeah, he's that person knows what they're talking about.
Dead on. So in terms of booking a trip with you, how do people find you?
Okay.
Get in touch with
so you can use my website, which is carolinatopwater.com. Frankly, you're better off just kind of using that to look at the schedule and then getting a hold of me directly, because I don't really you can't go on there and pick like, I want to go at like 8 o'clock in the morning. The best thing that we can do is figure out what your interests are and try to match that to a time and the tide and make it work. So I'm relatively trying to shape it around somebody's interests and abilities. So the phone's honestly the best way to get hold of me. You can certainly contact me various ways through the website that Grant just showed. but I'd much rather talk to customers in advance of picking a date, and it's like, we'll save you some money. It's just working directly out with the payment rather than like going through adding about $60 through like a website that's not going to benefit anyone. Anyway.
Well, the phone number is right there. So give Chris a call. And I've fished with him several times, and I can definitely attest to, his knowledge and his ability to put you on, a variety of fish. I do have a couple of questions coming in, guys. Go ahead and ask your questions now, because I'm trying to put a little bit more space in between the shows.
Fair enough.
I can have a moment to talk to the guests to prep them for anything new, but like most of the time the show goes all the way to the last minute. I jump in, I'm like, let's go. So we're going to try to end a couple minutes early to give a little bit more space. So go ahead and get your questions in now, and we're probably going to end about 10 minutes before the hour. Darn it, man asked, my question is, do you use drop shot rigs of any kind? And if so, do you use artificial bait, and what size hook?
So yes and no, and I'm not. If you can clarify in terms of what, like, I'm after with that kind of rig, like if you're asking if I use that for like bigger fish or just all in general.
I think people use drop shots for reds sometimes.
So yeah, so that's typically going to be a little bit more an advanced technique that most of my like customers that would be new to either kayaking or kayak fishing in general aren't going to be up for. If I was going for sheep's head, that's typically what I would probably use it for. More or less, I'm going to typically think a red's going to be a bottom fish. So like something that lays on the bottom, like a Carolina rig or like a fish finder or something like that, would probably be my go-to for that. If I had like suspended trout and I was fishing like, or even like black drum or something that was like more like vertically oriented, I might throw like, and I had a real picky bite for trout, I might throw like live shrimp on a drop shot style rig just to get it like when they're like hanging like 3 or 4 feet off the bottom. But like that's a technique that's more advanced than I'm going to typically want to incorporate into a charter unless I really know the angler or like well, or we're trying to do something very specific, or there's a technique they want to work on. So it's just not a money making rig for me in terms of that. But yeah, I don't like underestimate the value of it. And like a lot of folks are starting to use that coming out of like mudfish and bowfin charters when we do those like up the Santee River and the oxbows and stuff like that. So I'll use that for like advanced bass anglers when we go for like trophy bowfin for sure.
Yeah, I know drop shot's a big thing with largemouth bass fishing, for sure. So I would think that would translate well to bowfin fishing, right? Ben Price asked, I use a 7-foot rod on my kayak. Is that ideal?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a matter of tapering like the rod itself in terms of the flex and the action to what it is that you're chasing. Like I like a very flexible rod anymore on the kayak because I can just bend the heck out of it when I fight fish. So like a medium light action rod, even for like a bigger fish, it's not a bad idea because you can just play with the drag, especially if it's a good reel, like a decent reel. And it doesn't have to be more than $100 to be a decent reel. As long as you can trust that and like get on it fast enough to like adjust it, like you can make a rod work with most fish. So yeah, absolutely. 7-foot rod works great on a kayak. Mostly what you want to do is be able to clear the front of the kayak with the rod in case the fish runs around the front of the boat. So that, and like just use the bend of the rod to fight the fish, like hold it up and use that flex. I see so many people just like point the rod straight out over the water like they're on a boat, but it's like, it's different in a kayak.
I used to like to use 7-foot rods because I don't like trolling from a boat, but from a kayak, I think it's a lot of fun. And I would put the rods in front of me and rod holders going straight out to the sides, and having them be 6 inches longer than a 6'6" would get your baits out further. So when you made turns or if you doubled up, they were less likely to get tangled.
That sounds like somebody that isn't using a Hobie.
Never owned a Hobie.
Fair enough. So anyway, we don't have that problem. If we're going to cover water and troll, we're going to be typically looking for flounder on a situation like that. Or if like the bowfin bite is depressingly horrible, we'll like throw some in the rod holder. But a trolling technique is great, like I said, for covering a lot of water. If you know that there's like a bank that flounder are like partial to being on, it's a great way to like just comb that bank with a few passes and see if you get some bites. And then like if you do, start maybe like anchoring and picking away at a spot until you can figure out if that's where they're laying, and then just kind of know they'll move.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and he said he just moved to Vermont and he wants to fish a bunch of lakes up there, having not fished since he was a kid. And I've never fished up there, but I was like, he got a kayak, and I was like, man, get yourself some jerk baits that dive various depths and some soft plastics, and troll one off of each side of your kayak, and that's going to help you find fish.
Yep.
I think that's such a great way that, if you're just starting to kayak fish, where you can learn how to pedal or paddle and still be fishing by having baits out there. And it helps you locate fish while you're sort of learning the other things to kind of fill in the blanks of, learning the pattern of where the fish are, learning to balance yourself on the kayak.
So let's talk for a second in terms of like, all right, so you're mentioning your buddy up in Vermont got me thinking a little bit about how do you figure out when you're going out for fish like this, what the right area to fish is. So it's going to be an easy answer. So it's where the bait is. Yeah. So these big fish, the sharks and the bull reds and like stuff like that, tarpon, are going to be where they have easy access to what they want to eat. So that if you just stay with the bait patterns over the course of the summer, you can typically stay on it until we get to that point where the bait stealing fish just win every battle for the most part. So that's when we go bowfin fishing. Anyway, look for the schools of mullet, like the schools of pogies. Look for where the birds are. Look for where there's like smashing on the surface, like where maybe like trout or bluefish or Spanish mackerel are like driving bait to the surface. So, and then look for like adjacent deep water to that, somewhere that the bait's going to hold like throughout a good portion of the tide cycle, or it's regularly going to wash like in and out of an area. This is where a depth finder comes in handy, or using like an app like Navionics that's going to show you like where holes are and stuff like that you might overlook on like a quick scan, or like utilizing a different tool like Google Earth or something like that. You don't know that there's like a 14-foot hole, like where everything else around you is like 3 foot deep. So,
well, where 14-foot holes are in your water.
Yeah.
Without a depth finder, it's just you know your water.
And typically it's going to be on deep bends and like creeks and like where like a shallow creek comes into a deep creek, that's going to be like a waterfall effect that's going to create like turbulence that's going to dig a hole. Right. So you just got to keep moving. You can't be complacent. Like if there's no fish in your area, you got to like, it's one of those things where you kind of have to sit and wait sometimes. Like you have to figure out the bite, like when do the fish come through here? Because it's not all, it's like you could be in the right spot, but you could be 6 hours early or like 10 hours late, and there's nothing there because it's gone. Like whatever it was doing, it moved with the tide, or it left that area and moved to a different one.
It's something I really do love about kayak fishing. I know I've said this before on this show, is that you really have to do your homework better than you do when you're fishing from a boat, because if you go through the process of launching your kayak and fish that entire area and you're not catching fish, your options are, pulling out of the water and going to a different location, which is, can be a challenge.
Well, the good news for what we're doing this time of year is that, like, this is somewhat of a bite that we've developed, like, over the last year or so. So we've kind of narrowed the search down, and, like, we are a little bit closer to ocean water than we would typically be on most of our trips. But it's really, like, it's worth the not, I don't want to say risk. It's worth the movement out of your typical comfort zone in terms of where you're going to be in a kayak, because like you have to allow yourself to be dragged around by either a 50-pound redfish or like a 150-pound shark.
You know what? That sounds fantastic. That sounds like a terrible problem to have. A wonderful problem to have. Sorry. We are out of time. We do have a couple of questions. So Ben Price was asking about the length of a rod, and Darn It Man was asking about using drop shots. So which one do you choose for question of the night for the realm of fear prize pack?
So I'll tell you what, if I can get Steve to send me a couple packs of jig heads, I'll get both of them a prize this month. And then next month, we're going to do something probably a little bit different. And then I'll bring Realm of Fear back like once we get into the both time of year.
Sounds good. Well, Darn It Man and Ben Price, I think Darn It Man 69, I have your address already, but just to be sure, go ahead and send us an email at admin@thefishingchannel.net and send me your address so I can mail you guys a prize. We'll mail them out later on this week. You should receive it by early next week.
And I'll tell you what, here's the other thing.
Yeah.
So if Ken has any, is Ken right? Is what the one with the rod question?
Hang on. It was Ben.
Ben, sorry. I apologize, Ben. Sorry. My stepdad's name is Ken. So if he has any other questions, he can feel free to contact me about like picking the right rod. I used to work at run tackle shops and stuff like that. So outfitting folks with rods is like easy. And then for my friend in Georgetown, if he wants to chat at all, he's more than welcome to hit me up as well, or she or whatever. And maybe we can get out and go do some tarpon fishing together. Man,
that'd be sick. I know he made a comment about, he said lots of bulls and tarpons soon caught.
Yep.
7. He caught 7 last year. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. Chris, as always, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. And guys, if you're in the area, definitely hit him up. Go fishing. And thanks everyone for watching. Chris, we'll see you next month.
Absolutely. Have a good night. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, you too, buddy.
Hey, I love the intro. I saw me in there too.
Oh yeah, you're in there. Yeah, we had to switch it up for a little while, but
I love it.
Stick with it. People like that intro, so we'll see.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Have a good night.
You too.
Got off in town, resident on 70 Road. Got a nice wife and kids, y'all right inside the grove. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go to the pen. Mr. Clark is a lawyer, he good last stream. He the first man to prove dead, water run upstream. Mr. Clark, yeah, you know he is my friend.